Hello boys and girls, today we're going to talk about multiplying fractions. This is what your lesson is going to be on tomorrow, so if you're already watching this, you are going to be ahead of the game. Let's look at when we multiply fractions in the real world. When finding a fraction of another fraction, you're going to multiply fractions together. For example, I had 1/2 of a bottle of shampoo left. I used 2/5 of what was left. How much of the shampoo did I use? In that case, you're going to multiply 1/2 by 2/5. When working with recipes, that's another example of real-world multiplying fractions. I need 3/4 of a cup of sugar for my cookie recipe, but I'm going to triple it. So how much sugar do I need? You will multiply 3/4 by 3 as a whole number to get your answer. Another time where you're going to use multiplying fractions in the real world is when calculating area. So for example, if I'm getting new carpet for my living room, the dimensions are 20 3/4 inches by 18 3/8 inches. How much carpet do I need? Now, in that case, we'll multiply 20 3/4 inches by 18 3/8 inches to find our answer. Let's begin. You are going to be pleasantly surprised by how easy multiplying fractions truly is. Let's go ahead and get started. This is the easiest operation because you don't have to find the same denominator. In this case, we do have the same denominator, a common denominator, but it does not matter. You're going to multiply straight across. So you're going to start with your numerator and multiply 1 times 1, and then you're going to multiply your denominators 2 times 2. 1 times 1 is 1, 2 times 2 is 4. Now, I want you to look at the size of our product here, 1/4. 1/2 is not a whole number. 1/2 over here, again, is not a whole number. When we multiply those together, we're going to get a smaller fraction. Let's look at what that looks like on this visual. I'm going to mark these off. So this top section is going to represent my first fraction, 1/2. And I'm going to go ahead and fill in 1/2 of this top section. Now, this section down here represents my second fraction, and I'm going to fill that in as well to represent 1/2. When I look at my diagram, there's only one section that is covered by both fractions. If I fill that in completely, I see that that one section is 1/4. So this is what that looks like as a visual model, and I'll be asking you to create that in class as well. Let's look at another one. Again, we're going to multiply straight across, but first let's see what that looks like on our model. Let's see if we can find it on our own first. I'm going to section this diagram off into fourths up here at the top, and down here on the side, we're going to section it off into sixths. I'm going to go ahead and outline my diagram so I can see my whole. Now, when I'm looking at my whole, if I were to count all of these pieces, I have a 4x6 diagram, that would be 24 pieces. So let's look and see what is filled in by both fractions when we fill in 3/4 and 4/6. I'm going to start with 3/4, so I'm going to fill in 1, 2, 3 sections. Then I'm going to go on to my 4/6, and I'm going to fill in 4 sections this way. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that would represent 4/6. When I look at the area that is just covered by both fractions, I'm going to outline that area right here. And if I were to count those, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, we would have 12 boxes filled in. Now let's see if that checks out when we multiply across. 3 times 4 equals 12. 4 times 6 equals 24. Remember, when you're multiplying fractions, you do not have to find a common denominator. You do not. Now, there is one more step. Do you remember what it is? Simplifying. We have to simplify this fraction. So let's see. What is a common factor, the greatest common factor of both of these? I know that 12 is a factor of 12, and I know that 24 is a factor, I know that 12 is a factor of 24. So let's see what happens when we divide the numerator and the denominator by 12. 12 divided by 12 is 1. 24 divided by 12 is 2. Again, if I came over here and looked, I could count 12 boxes right here, and I could count 12 boxes right here. So I know that that is 1/2. Let's look at the next page. Another example that you might see is multiplying a fraction by a whole number. Now, I want to remind you, when we multiply, multiplication is like repeated addition. So here is another model you can use, another strategy when you're multiplying fractions. We could add 1/2 6 times. Now, this is a pretty friendly fraction to work with because we know that we can add 1/2 to 1/2 and we get 1/2. So I'm going to add those together. And I will get 3 as a whole number. Now think about this. 6 times 1/2. What's half of 6? Well, it's 3. So actually, this would be the same as multiplying 6 times 5/10 as a decimal. Both of these represent 1/2. Alright, so that's another way you can multiply fractions. I do want to remind you, you do not have to find a common denominator. You're simply going to multiply the numerator by the numerator and the denominator by the denominator, and your last step will be to simplify. Let's look at one more page. I found this rap for you, and I'm going to play that, and we'll see what you think. This will be the last part of our video today, and I'm hoping this gets in your head to remind you what to do when you're multiplying fractions.
Multiply my fractions.
Now you take your fractions and line them up side by side. Then the numerator times the numerator. You multiply. Then the denominator times the denominator. You multiply. Then reduce to simplest form. Then reduce to simplest form. Now you take your fractions and line them up side by side. Then the numerator times the numerator. You multiply. Then the denominator times the denominator. You multiply. Then reduce to simplest form. Then reduce to simplest form.
Multiply my fractions.
Multiply fractions.
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 Alright, so that will be all for today. I can't wait to see you guys tomorrow and to find out all that you learned about multiplying fractions. Please don't forget to complete your quiz on Edmodo. 5 questions, multiple choice. It will grade them right away for you. It is not for a grading class, but it will give you a score so you'll know how many you have correct. Alright, thanks for learning with me today. Bye.